Top 10 2020 action figures between $50 and $150. DorkLair. Welcome to another DorkLair collecting video. Today I am counting down my favorite action figures in that mid-tier premium level range between $50 and $150. And the figure you're looking at right here, unfortunately did not make my list because of its price. It was $155, so it was just outside of my tier list, and it's probably not going to make my third and final video, which will be the top 10 over 150. I guess I could have just done 50 to 155 or 50 to 160 or something like that, but that would have been changing the entire format just to fit this figure in. So this one kind of ended up in a little bit of an in-between. This is the Mezco 112 Collective Deluxe Wolverine with the Sentinel base. It's awesome. It probably would have been near the top of this particular list had it not been over $150. I also did a top 10 under $50. I hope you'll check that out sometime as well. But for now, let's get into the list. Number 10, the Mezco 112 Collective Death Dealer, which probably would have been much higher on my list had it not been A, for its really high price, and B, the light up feature limits the articulation in the neck. They used the same neck situation as Cyclops and Cable, and it just really limits things, and I just would have rather had it be a little more articulated without the light up features. I also feel like the cloth cape here is just like a little bit too thick for the application, and it makes it kind of difficult to move around and to situate that cape. But otherwise, it is just an incredibly awesome looking figure. Lots of different looks you can do with the multiple heads and belts and different accessories. Just a cool take on an original Frank Frazetta character. Number 9, Alder the Moose from the Mythic Legion's Alithia Wave. What an absolute bold decision. The audacity of them to just do a moose, and a super highly detailed moose at that. I know that they are taking the core body from the horse, but adding those longer legs, the whole neck, head stuff. I mean, that was a lot of work to put into a brand new type of creature, and of all things, a moose. But it works perfectly. It fits in so well with the Woodland Xylona's Flock theme. The character actually has a little bit of a story that fits in as well. It's awesome. They're just killing it with Mythic Legions, and that's why Alder the Moose made my top 10 action figures between $50 and $150. Number 8. I guess we're into the mounts section of the list here. And this is the Bone Stabber Wild Boar mount from D20 Studios. And I did like their wolf, which I think technically came out this year, but I love the boar even more. I think that they've improved on the sculpture. I think that the wolf was a little bit too cartoony in the face, and this one has a much more lifelike, realistic kind of look to it. I do kind of prefer it without the armor, which is maybe why it's not a little bit higher on my list. So if you take that armor off, it just looks awesome. Even like with a Mythic Legion saddle on there, I kind of prefer that. So for swapping and, kind of mixing it in with the Legions, especially Xylona's Flock, or even you could put it in with like goblins. A goblin on the boar is excellent. Maybe a dwarf. Such a versatile, cool thing. And it's not overly large. It's not going to just dominate a shelf. So it's a nice size too. Highly recommend that one. Expensive though. It is a pricey figure, so if you are hunting for one, maybe hold out for a little bit of a deal. Otherwise, definitely a great release from D20 Studios. Number 7, the Furious 4 2-pack from Legions Con 2022. The setup I have right here is the Uit character and the Bashadi, the alpha character, but you can then swap them out and mix and match and then go with the bull, which is Praetorian, and you could also do the skeleton, which is Pelvicus. So a lot of options for this set. There's also just an infinite number of possibilities for mixing and matching with other figures in the line, because the color scheme, the grays and the reds, blacks and reds and so on. There's a lot of other figures within that same color palette, so just makes for an excellent kit of stuff to kit bash, tons of parts and accessories. I do know that they'll be coming out with the single releases in 2023, so if you're looking for these and you don't want to spend the aftermarket money for a sold out figure, stay tuned for that. They won't come with the cat head and tail, but you'll be able to get everything else that comes with them. Excellent figures, and I will be buying more when they do come in stock. Number 6. I know, another Mythic Legions figure. I'm sorry, but it's the best line out there right now as far as I'm concerned, so it's going to dominate all of my lists. And this is the Centaur of Farius from the Alithia Wave, a member of Zylona's flock. Just a really cool character. Comes with like a ton of stuff. It actually comes with like a little weapons pack packed in with it. It's a great preview because this upper torso is actually going to be a new scale of regular humanoid characters, the brute scale, and so you're getting a little flavor of that. And the head sculpt is awesome. And if you don't like the centaur aspect of it, the body is great. The lower half of the figure works perfectly with Balius. If you want to just do like a different kind of horse with those furrier lower legs and just a little bit of a blonde accent to it, it works really well for swaps. Just a lot of style and character to this centaur. Number 5. A little bit of a left turn here after all of that fantasy-based Mythic Legions type stuff. Here we have the 3-0 DLX Infinity Saga Iron Man Mark 43 battle damaged version. I originally had just the regular Mark 43 on my list, but then I realized, oh, that didn't actually come out in 2022, even though that's when I bought it. So this one did. And I really wanted to work one of these into my list because they're awesome. I think I have 3 of the regular figures now. I have the Mark 43, the Battle Damaged 43, I have the Iron Patriot, and I also have the Hulkbuster, which teaser may end up being on my top figures over $150. Stay tuned for that video, probably next week. Anyway, these figures are incredible. They're primarily die cast. The joints are die cast. The articulation is quite impressive. They are a little weird to move around because those metal joints are so stiff, I think on purpose so that they can hold the poses of a heavy figure. But the paintwork, the finish, everything about these figures is blowing me away. The only knock is that they're not in 1/12 scale, even though they're marketed as 1/12 figures. They are definitely bigger. But for me, somebody who does not collect any other Marvel MCU stuff, these are perfect, and they don't need to scale with anything because they just sit on their own as their own collection. Number 4, and I want to say up front that 4, 3, and 2 are pretty much interchangeable. I had a really hard time ranking these next 3. My number 1 is easy, my number 1, but my 2, my 3, and my 4 were tough. I had it's almost random which ones I picked first. I kind of just went with which characters I like more, like not necessarily which figure is better. All 3 are awesome. And this one is the Mafex Superman from The Dark Knight Returns. This line is stunning. I can't believe how much articulation they're pulling off on these super comic accurate, beefy, chunky, heavy figures. It's such a turnaround from a couple years ago with Mafex, and I just wasn't into them at all. I had their Boba Fett, and that was it. Nothing else really appealed to me. And I'm struggling really hard not to just go all in on these Dark Knight Returns figures. I know a lot of people are super high on everything Mafex is doing. Their comic book specific characters are just, they're incredible. Their articulation, their build quality, all of it is just hitting their stride in really many ways. So Superman, Dark Knight Returns, awesome figure. Number 3, we have the Mezco 112 Collective Rumble Society Atticus Doom. Hands down, my favorite Mezco figure of 2022. This figure just hits me on so many levels. It's got that pulpy, occult kind of old comic booky kind of thing going on. It's got a magic, Cthulhu, great old ones vibe. It's just a character that is among the Rumble Society. I do feel like it's the most fully fleshed out character. Maybe Doc Nocturnal Like, I feel like those two just fit in hand. So yeah, this figure, the articulation, the buck, the all the accessories, the swap out Cthulhu head, like just killer release here. And like I said before, this one could easily have been my number 2 as well. It's almost a coin flip which one I picked. Number 2, the movie realization Mandalorian and Grogu set. Possibly the best movie realization Bandai samurai mashup type figure they've ever done. It was a little pricey, like the prices are going up on these, but I still think that they are worth it. I still think these are incredible figures, especially since you can usually get them for less than the retail anyways. But yeah, the armor, the shine on it, the finish, these have great articulation. It's not mind-blowing articulation, but it is Tamashii Nation's joints and stuff. Like, these things move really well. I love the little cart, the whole lone wolf and cub vibe. It's just like, it's like taking the inspiration for a lot of what the Mandalorian is and then like inserting it back into the Mandalorian. So thematically on point. Also a lot of great accessories. One thing you don't see in the picture here is the pulse rifle. And yeah, it's just a great set. I love this set. I love this line. I can't wait for them to release more figures. I know they've slowed down a bit, but they have been teasing more. They've got that Boba Fett on pre-order. They teased the Gamorrean Guard, IG-88, Akbar. A lot of cool things hopefully coming down the pike with this line. And my number 1 action figure from 2022 between $50 and $150 is the Figura Obscura Headless Horseman. First of all, I just want to acknowledge the inherent bias in this decision. I was gifted this figure from Four Horsemen Studios. The bigger gift really was getting the first look at this figure and being able to just be a part of that whole release. So grateful to Four Horsemen for that whole experience. It was awesome. So there's a bit of bias there, but I will say this. I have seen tons and tons of other people putting this as their number 1 on their list. So I'm comfortable doing so. If you're not into that, then just consider this a runner up. And then my number 1 was Mando, and then roll on down that list. But for me, this one is above and beyond those others. The set itself is incredible. From the packaging to the storytelling. Obviously, it's a retelling of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but they've done a great job breaking down that whole legend, not just the Irving story, but like the lore behind it and the whole history of it. The wonderful art by Nate Barch through and through, top to bottom, just incredible packaging and delivery on the whole thing. Figura Obscura is a special line. I really think that this is near and dear to the hearts of the guys at Four Horsemen Studio, and it's a fun project. It's going to be really neat to see what comes next. As for the figures themselves, these are splendid. Like, not just as the Headless Horseman, which is incredible with the 2 head sculpts and the flames and all that stuff and the wonderful cape. The cape is a piece in itself. Like, that is value right there in this pack. But also the horse, like that thing could be used. A lot of people are using it for the Mezco Death Dealer. It's a very versatile piece. If you consider this just something you'd have in, the spooky Halloween season, there's a lot of other applications for this figure body as well as the horse. Some brilliant engineering. You have that severed neck piece, the hand with the peg in it to hold the pumpkin head. It's a lot of fun, an incredible release. I think we're going to see a lot of people with this in their top 5 or even their number 1 of 2022. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. I've got one more list in the pipeline, which is the over 150. It's going to be some Hot Toys, some Exo 6, and some other things in that really expensive price range. And if you want to make sure you don't miss that video right when it drops, make sure you subscribe down below, hit the bell so you get notifications. And until next time, may the force be with you.